3 months after leaving college, where he stayed for a few years and didn't get a degree, Jeffrey Epstein is teaching mathematics at the Dalton School with no degree. He is 21 years old. It's 1974. And now him and Mr. Barr are ready to set their plans in motion to take over the world. But not William Barr. He's going to start with William Barr's father, Donald Barr, the guy who hired him to teach at this school with no degree. Now we're going to spend some time with Donald Barr. He's very interesting. William Barr and Jeffrey Epstein will cross paths later in the Iran-Contra affair and when Mr. Epstein unalives himself and William Barr happens to be Attorney General at that time. No coincidence. Nothing to see there. Now before we dive into Donald Barr, I want to ask something about this picture. What is this on the chalkboard? Is he spelling his name differently here? With all these people changing their names, this kind of thing really stands out to me, but maybe it's part of an equation or something. I don't know. I would love to know what this is. Let's get back to Daddy Barr. Donald Barr hires Jeffrey Epstein to teach at the prestigious Dalton School, a private school in New York, to wealthy children with no college degree, and as far as we can tell, no real achievements, nothing to distinguish him. At the Dalton School, we have two worlds converge around Jeffrey Epstein, the intelligence world and Jeffrey Epstein's distinctive behavior with young women. Both of these themes have now appeared. Donald Barr, who hired him, was from the OSS. He worked in the OSS during World War II and eventually transferred to the Interim Research and Intelligence Service. That group was merged into the State Department, and then all these little minor intelligence groups formed the CIA eventually. So Donald Barr is Intelligence 101. He's an OG of the intelligence world. Something which is heavily discussed right now is Donald Barr's science fiction book that he published named Space Relations, a slightly gothic interplanetary tale. Donald Barr's book is pretentious, a little crazy, and it's about a planet called Kosar. And these super rich people congregate there, and they're bored with their money, and they have pleasure slaves. You know, a lot of them are underage, a lot of young girls. There's a pretty graphic scene where a space pirate violates a young underage girl slave. He taunts her in front of the whole crew, makes a big spectacle of disrobing her, and goes to town on her. And, Donald Barr takes great pleasure in writing this stuff, you can tell. There's a group who founded Planet Kosar, and they're called the Carlyle Group. The Carlyle Society. But, really, dude, it's the Carlyle Group. Literally 15 years after this book is published, the freaks in Donald Barr's circle, all those high-money people in New York, they made the Carlyle Group. The Carlyle Society and the Carlyle Group, they're both named for Thomas Carlyle. They have a common thread. I would say you can't write this stuff, but he did write this stuff. If you're not familiar with the Carlyle Group, it's a private equity firm. It owns Staple Street Capital, and Staple Street Capital owned Dominion Voting Systems. George Soros donates heavily to him. Here's a brief video clip describing George Soros and the Carlyle Group and some of their involvement in the 2020 election, with George Soros donating money to everything. See, Dominion shared a co-working space with the Tides in Canada. Federico Arnao, author of more than one Dominion patent, worked for Smartmatic and Dominion and Sequoia. George Soros donated heavily to the Carlyle Group, and many of Carlyle Group's best officers work at Staple Street Capital. Staple Street Capital pretty much owns Dominion. So here we are, our friend Jeffrey Epstein, at the tender age of 21. He's met the intelligence world through Donald Barr. Donald Barr writes the pervy Space Relations, which eerily predicts our future where Jeffrey Epstein has problems with girls, which is already manifesting itself at the school. He's inappropriate with some of the students, and people made this clear even back then. So the early days of Jeffrey Epstein are now looking quite different than the bill of goods we have been sold. There is this early relationship with Jimmy Goldsmith when Epstein is very young. It is not talked about enough. When we find young Epstein playing piano in Jimmy Goldsmith's mansion, the relationship is already established. What has Jimmy Goldsmith taught him? What is he grooming him for? Who is he introducing him to? We know Jimmy Goldsmith knows Robert Maxwell. Epstein will join Robert Maxwell a little bit after this time, and perhaps this is another chance of a young Ghislaine Maxwell to get a glimpse of Jeffrey Epstein. Jimmy Goldsmith will also sit on the board of Hollinger for Conrad Black with Lex Wexner. Bobby Christina Englehart is engaging in relations with Woody Allen at this time, around 76. Epstein's still at the school. She is 16 years old at this time and has an affair with the 40-something Woody Allen and later becomes Jeffrey Epstein's assistant. And no one has explored this. Woody Allen goes on to be great friends with Jeffrey Epstein, and Woody Allen is kind of a disaster. He's married one of his daughters. He's accused of assaulting the other daughter. He's had more than one affair with 16, 17-year-old girls. One of them is Bobby Christina Englehart. The other is Stacey Nelkin after Englehart. Stacey Nelkin went on to be a relationship expert. I mean, not off to a good start when you're 17, humping a 42-year-old man, but whatever. Back to Woody Allen's Manhattan. He has a character who is a teacher at Dalton School and happens to be Woody Allen's buddy. And if you ever imagined what Woody Allen and Jeffrey Epstein talk about, there is a scene in this movie that captures exactly that.
Getting through to you, right?
Yeah. Yes, excuse me.
She's gorgeous. She's 17. I'm 42 and she's 17.
So that's Woody Allen's character talking to his buddy, who's a teacher at the Dalton School, about a 17-year-old girl he's having a relationship with. So I struggle with the idea that Jeffrey Epstein is around all this going on at this time, and him and Woody Allen didn't cross paths back then. I think they would have immediately been attracted to each other, especially with the whole Bobby Christina thing in between them. That's crazy. And there's Donald Barr, who wrote the crazy space relations book that predicts Epstein Island. He's an old guard intelligence officer, member of the OSS and the smaller intelligence agencies afterwards. A man like him in the OSS is going to be well versed in the use of people's romantic encounters against them. He's going to be used to that blackmail world, and sounds like he taught some of that to somebody. I noticed it's very hard to find photos of Donald Barr as well. There's a few, but a celebrated author, intelligence agent, professor, educator, this guy would be about town with people. There'd be old pictures of him. There's nothing. It's radio silence. It's hard to look up stuff on Donald Barr, and I find that strange. This is a circle of friends and contacts that nobody has at 21 years old. But it's amazing that the Space Relations book so eerily predicts Epstein Island. The young woman pictured with Epstein is Sarah Kellen. She was not questioned enough. Outside of Ghislaine Maxwell, this young woman holds the keys to the kingdom. We will actually get into her a little bit later. There is a whole lot there. So right here is the beginning of Jeffrey Epstein, hired by a former OSS agent, Donald Barr, who just happens to predict his pervy future island in a science fiction book. And Donald Barr also has hired this no college degree having unremarkable person to teach wealthy children at the Dalton School. We're supposed to believe this is all right. Donald Barr, an OSS officer, has noticed Epstein's behavior and he approves of them. He wants to make use of them, and he knows people who could use them. Add to this scenario, you have Bobby Christina Englehart, Woody Allen, and Jimmy Goldsmith. And we got to touch back to the Montreal thing again. In the years Jeffrey Epstein taught at the Dalton School, one of his students was Holly Bronfman. Yes, the Bronfman family. Holly would change her name to Bahani Lev and go on to teach meditation, and it's all this goofy guru stuff and whatever. Her grandfather is Samuel Bronfman of the Seagram's fortune. This is him in Montreal in 1971. The Bronfman home in Montreal was palatial. Samuel's son, Holly's father, is Edgar Bronfman, and they're known for raising their children in Montreal. Somehow, Holly Bronfman made it to high school to be taught by Jeffrey Epstein, or at least when Jeffrey Epstein was teaching there, and this is something else we're not supposed to notice. Conrad Black, of course, was also involved with the Bronfmans. This is a very busy circle of people in the Epstein orbit. He's kind of Forrest Gumping through these people's lives in the early 70s. None of these people are forthcoming. I think, our FBI could seriously interview all of them who are alive and get a lot out of them. And for the ones who have died, you can interview their subordinates, their children, whatever. There's a lot to get right here, just in this pile of people. This pretty much wraps up his career at the Dalton School. He was fired for having an unremarkable performance. Again, that whole math whiz thing, it's very nebulous. He did skip 2 grades of high school, but then he never really shows his work. In an upcoming episode, we're going to talk about that. But in the immediate future, we got to deal with Snopes and the Dalton School. Thank you for watching. And again, please send anything to tipsforvinny@gmail.com if you have anything on the Dalton days with Epstein, anything about the Dalton School and their records. We would just love to hear from you.